Hi, and welcome to the program. I'm really happy and delighted that you're here to learn about how to take care of your metabolism. We have this course here, and it's designed to empower you to take a proactive approach to your metabolism. And that's going to require you to become educated on to what you're actually going to be taking head on here. So, first and foremost, I congratulate you to taking this step into learning about your body. I believe that everyone should have a manual to their metabolism. Everyone should know how their body works. And when you know how your body works, you can do whatever you need to do to make sure that it runs optimally. Many of the times people get here, they've dealt with a setback. They've had something that's gone in a direction that they would not like it to. They've heard some news from their doctor that the factors or the vitals aren't where they need to be, whether that's blood pressure or their visceral fat is higher than they'd like to be. And those are dangerous warning signs. That's very similar to like you're driving along in your car and a light pops up and tells you that, you're low on fuel, or, your oil needs to be changed, or there's a problem with the engine. Check engine light, right? We need to look at these warning signals and do something about it. So the program itself, as you know, is called Metabolic 911 Now, because we want to treat your metabolism with urgency before you have an emergency. So overall, metabolic syndrome is a very dangerous place to be because it's the beginning of symptoms that are going to be adding up and then becoming something a little bit more than you want to handle down the road. Pre-diabetes leads to diabetes. So the idea is to catch things and nip it in the bud, as they say, and stop them from becoming bigger problems. So how do we do that? But first of all, we have to know what metabolic syndrome is. Metabolic syndrome is a collection of five symptoms that can lead to diabetes. The first one is increased blood pressure. We get our blood pressure measured to see that our cardiovascular system is working appropriately. When that number starts to go higher, we know that there is an issue that's happening with our body, specifically with the cardiovascular system. It could be an indicator that the arteries are beginning to constrict. Therefore, your heart has to work harder to get the flow your body needs. Think of it as someone pressing their foot on a hose and a garden hose. It starts to be more forceful. And that forcefulness that could happen in the heart or in the brain, if those arteries are brittle and they're not as pliant as they used to be, they could cause a break in that artery. And we can deal with something known as, a stroke and a cerebral vascular hemorrhage or myocardial infarction when these arteries get smaller and smaller, even coronary arteries. So anyway, blood pressure, you want to have that at a certain healthy range. 120 over 80 is considered healthy. And then you start going over to 140 over 90 is considered elevated. 160 over 100 is a second level of elevation. And then you have 180 to 110, which is extremely high and dangerous. So blood pressure is one. The next one is looking at our oil in our body, if you will, cholesterol, triglycerides, and such. These numbers need to be effective in optimal ranges, particularly your HDLs. Your HDLs need to have a nice high level, which indicates that it's a good cholesterol. And triglycerides are ones that are fats that start to build as we have too much refined carbohydrates or sugars. So we have blood pressure, we have HDLs, we have cholesterol. Another indicator that we need to look at is our sugars. And I was just mentioning, when you eat too many sugars, they spill over and become cholesterol. They become triglycerides. So we want to manage our sugar levels. Doctors will look at your blood sugar levels and see where you're at with that. And they look at a longer window of how your body manages sugar. It's called a hemoglobin A1C, and there are ranges you need to be in. If you're too far within that range, you become pre-diabetic, or you're labeled as that. If you're past a certain point, then it becomes diabetic. So we want to look at your sugar levels as well. And we'll get into the actual levels, but this does not substitute for any advice that you should have from your doctor. Your doctor should explain to you that there is a healthy range, and what we're doing here is educating you on how to get into the healthy range. If you're outside of that range, you need to speak to your doctor on how to get back into that range. This is about maintaining an optimal health. And the next thing we want to talk about, of course, is our visceral fat. Visceral fat is an indicator of how many of these triglycerides that have been in the bloodstream and now that are being stored. It's really good to have a storage system in place for energy in the event of a famine. But evolutionarily, we're adapted to put on and store energy wherever we can. It's like you go ahead and you have some sugars. If the blood sugar is very low, it satisfies that sugar. Once that sugar has been consumed and you have enough blood sugar, it goes into your liver and it goes into your muscles into a form called glycogen. Think of it as a sugar molecule being like a Red Bull can, and the glycogen being like a six-pack that's being stored for later use. Once your liver glycogen and your muscle glycogen has become filled, all the shelf space is taken up by those six packs, it starts to go into triglycerides. And those triglycerides will be higher in your bloodstream. And then eventually it'll be stored into your adipose tissue that gets stored around our necks and men, and in our arms for women and men, specifically for our stomach, mostly for men, and our booties for ladies, and so on and so forth. So your body finds places to just kind of stash away. Think about food as like, cash. And someone who just really wants to save up all this cash and starting away. These are energy supplies that are stored all over us. Now, in the event of famine, it's great to have those stored energy pockets all over your body. But fortunately, we're not in a situation where we're facing famine in the Western world. And we're very lucky in that way. But we are facing a bigger threat, and the bigger threat is overnutrition, macronutrients. We're eating too many macronutrients and not consuming and having enough micronutrients. So back to our topic here. Metabolic syndrome consists of 5 factors: blood pressure, visceral fat, triglycerides, sugar, and your cholesterol. So if you have 1 or 2 of those that are out of alignment, you're in a pre-diabetic or metabolic syndrome state. And this course is designed for you to take a step-by-step approach in order to get a handle on what's taking place here. So if you'd like to, obviously go out and go get your blood pressure checked and see what you're starting with. Very important. If you have a physical with your doctor, ask to have your blood pressure checked. I'm sure he's going to do that, or he or she is going to do that with you. The next thing you want to do is take some blood values. You're going to want to see what your cholesterol is. You're going to want to see what your triglycerides are, and you want to see what your hemoglobin A1C is. Find out if you're diabetic, find out if you're pre-diabetic, or if you're normal. If you're normal, great. Next thing you want to look at is your triglycerides level. That'll let us know how many sugars have been spilling over and being stored as triglycerides. Okay, and visceral. The best way to know what you need to be visceral for most people, it's half of your height. So in my example, I'm a 5'10" individual that's 70 inches tall. You want to be half of your height in inches around your waist maximum, and you do measure at your belly button and go around. You want for my case, you want to be a 35-inch or less waist. You want to shoot towards that. There's a special scale that we use in this program. I will mention the scale. It's called Fit Index Scale. It's about $16 to $22, and you can locate that on Amazon. They are Wi-Fi scales, and they're smart scales. Actually, give me one moment. This is what it looks like. This is a Wi-Fi scale that's made by a company called Fit Index, and gives you great information very quickly in about a few seconds. It tells you what your weight is. It tells you what your body fat is. It tells you how much hydration you have. It uses a concept in science known as impedance. Basically, you put your feet on top of these sensors, an electrical current goes through your body. And the more water you have, the more muscle you have, and the slower the current goes through your body, it means there's more interruption or impedance that indicates more fat. So having these tools and these Wi-Fi technologies, and we're going to get into this next when it comes to our technologies. But right now, we wanted to talk about the 5 points, the 5 factors of metabolic syndrome. I wanted to put this video on here so you have an idea of what they are. And you've probably heard it before. That's the reason why you're starting this course. But those are the 5 things, and that's what we're going to be tackling here as we go along with the course. Thanks for your attention, and we'll go on to the next program.